Let me tell you something that might sound unbelievable if you weren't sitting right here with me. Sometimes, a kid with nothing but a worn-out doll and a big heart can set off a chain of events that shakes a whole community to its roots. You know what I mean? I was only 5, and what I did that day seemed so small at the time. Just something a lonely kid would do because the world felt too big and too empty. But if you ask the people around here, they'll say that's the day everything changed. Let me back up a sec. That morning, the sun was just breaking over the tops of those old trees, painting gold streaks through the meadow behind our cabin, and I was out there wandering with bare feet, hugging Rosie, the only doll I'd ever had, like she was a piece of my own heart, which, honestly, she was. It was quiet except for the wind and the grass scratching against my legs, and then I heard it. Not the kind of sound you expect out there, not a bird or a rabbit, but a small, scared whimper, like pain you try to swallow down but can't. It stopped me cold. I crept toward the creek, moving careful so I didn't startle whatever it was. And that's when I saw her, a girl maybe a year older than me, sitting under a big oak with her hair all tangled, crying so hard it made my own eyes sting. Her dress was made of soft leather, beads and feathers woven in, and her feet were cut up from running barefoot over rocks and thorns. I knew, even though nobody had to tell me, she was from one of the tribes that lived past the hills. The ones my parents talked about in voices meant for secrets and prayers. She looked up, fear etched so deep into her face it made her look smaller than she was, and when she tried to scoot away, I could see the scrapes and blood on her arms and legs. I should have been scared, I guess, but honestly, all I could think was, she looked just as lost as I always felt out there. So I sat down. Not too close, just enough to show I wasn't there to hurt her. She watched me, breathing like she was waiting for something bad to happen, and I showed her Rosie. The way you show your best thing to someone who needs it more than you do. I told her my name, then Rosie's, and even though she didn't understand the words, I could tell she got the message. I inched over and pressed Rosie into her hands. She tried to give her back, shaking her head, but I just kept smiling and wrapped her fingers around the doll, and for the first time, her tears slowed. She whispered something soft, music in a language I didn't know, but gratitude is the same everywhere, you know? We sat there, sunlight warming our faces, and it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. I had no clue anyone was watching, but they were. Turns out, in a place like that, even a child's kindness can't go unnoticed. That's when my father, Ezra, crashed through the undergrowth, breathless, eyes scanning for danger, but he stopped cold when he saw us. His daughter, safe, sitting next to the other, who hugged Rosie like she was a lifeline. He was a man of the frontier, used to reading between the lines, and in that moment, he didn't see threat. He saw something more, something that made him pause instead of react. My father knelt beside us, gentle, careful, and the girl, after a heartbeat, reached into her pouch and handed me a tiny wooden bird, carved so beautifully it looked alive in my palm. A gift for a gift. Yeah, that happened. Dad tried to bridge the gap with gestures and names. But words didn't matter much. We understood each other just fine. Suddenly, we weren't alone. A shadow flickered at the edge of the trees. Someone else had been watching. Someone who slipped away as quietly as they'd come, carrying our story back to people who'd remember it long after we were gone. We took her home. My mom, Sarah, saw us coming. 2 kids instead of 1, and her heart almost stopped. But as soon as she realized nobody was hurt, just hungry and scared, she threw the door open and welcomed the girl inside. Sat her down at our table, fed her until she couldn't eat another bite. I could see it in Mom's eyes, the way she softened. Like she was picturing me lost out there and hoping some stranger would do the same for me. When Mom asked Dad where the girl came from, he said, "She's been walking a long way, maybe days." The girl pointed toward the mountains, eyes filling with tears again, longing so clear it hurt to look at her. But even before we could decide what to do, the sound of horses cut through the quiet, measured, steady, nothing like a posse or search party. 3 riders, tribal elders, in full ceremonial dress, rode up to our cabin like they'd always known where to find us. The girl, Ayana, ran to the window, face lighting up with hope for the first time. My father stepped out, hands open and empty, the sign of peace he'd learned over the years. Takakota, the lead elder, introduced himself, his English heavy but clear. He explained that Ayana was his grandniece, lost for 3 days, and that our kindness would be remembered. Then came the moment I'll never forget. Takakota handed me a bracelet woven from metals and stones, and told me it had belonged to his grandmother. A protection, he said, for wise hearts. My mom nodded for me to accept, and as the metal slid onto my wrist, the sun caught the stones, making them shimmer like something out of a dream. Takakota told my parents that what had happened between us wasn't just a moment. It was the spark of something bigger. A debt of honor, he called it. One that had to be recognized. My dad tried to refuse, saying kindness didn't need payment, but Takakota insisted. Pure kindness is the rarest gift, he said. To ignore it would dishonor both the giver and the receiver. Ayana tugged at Takakota's sleeve, whispering, "The white child sees beyond the surface." Takakota explained to us that, among his people, children like that were believed to be touched by spirits, maybe healers or peacemakers one day. Before they left, Takakota promised they'd return tomorrow, bringing something that would change everything for our family and our place on that land. He left us with a warning that our home sat at the heart of lands 3 tribes claimed, and what happened next depended on what we chose to do. That night, none of us could sleep. My parents whispered worries about war, about being caught between peoples and responsibilities they never wanted. I slept with the bracelet on my wrist and dreamed of Ayana, not lost and scared but safe, laughing in the sun. Next day, right when the sun hit its peak, the elders came back, more of them this time, 5 riders, and 1 horse carrying a heavy, blanket-wrapped bundle. When they set it down and unwrapped it, we saw a chest carved with stories, filled with gold coins, precious stones, and documents in languages I didn't know. "This is the tribute of 3 tribes, Takakota said, "offered to you as guardians of this land." My parents just stared. How do you process something like that? He explained that the spot where I found Ayana was sacred, and my act had been taken as a sign from the spirits, a path to peace after generations of conflict. The council offered us the role of neutral keepers, a place where tribal disputes would be settled, a home for all children to play together in safety, if we were willing to carry that burden. "What if peace doesn't hold?" my dad asked, worry thick in his voice. "Then you'll be caught in the center of the storm," Takakota replied. Just then, more riders appeared, the other 2 tribal councils, each adding their blessing, each drawn by the story of a little girl who gave away her only treasure. Right then, I walked into their circle and told the truth. I just wanted to help her because she was sad. I didn't know it would cause all this. The elders smiled, and for the first time, you could feel hope settling in around us like a warm blanket. My family accepted their offer. They made it all official, signed documents, said blessings, gave us the chest. But none of that meant as much to me as when Ayana ran to hug me, and we played together while the adults did their grown-up business. That day is still talked about, not just as the beginning of peace, but as proof that sometimes it's a child's heart that leads the way. I grew up with that carved bird by my bed, a reminder that the smallest gift, given freely, can change everything. Our cabin became a meeting place, a safe haven. People came to settle disputes, and kids played together who used to be taught to hate. All because I believed no kid should have to cry alone. So what do you think? Was it just a child's luck? Or do you believe kindness really can change the world? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about justice, community, and what it takes to turn strangers into family. If this story spoke to you, share it, subscribe, and maybe drop a super chat if you want to see more tales where ordinary people make the extraordinary choice. Your voice matters here. Let's keep the conversation going.